Hey everyone, welcome to another bow making tutorial. I'm Sharon with Designer DIY. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make an 8-layered bow on the Easy Bow Maker. As you can see, I have 8 different ribbons here. I have 4 that are 1.5" width and 4 that are 2.5" width. Very important because they're going to go in order and you want to have 4 of one size and 4 of the other. That way the bow ends up even. You need 1 1/3 yards of each piece of ribbon that you choose. And then let's see, we need a fabric covered wire or floral wire or whatever you have available. It works better than a zip tie for this big of a bow. And then I have a piece of like a 5/8 width ribbon that I'm going to use just to go around the center of the bow when we're done. Okay. You want to make sure that you have a variety of patterns and colors, and you don't want all of the same color next to each other. You want to kind of spread them out because I laid these out in the order I want them on the bow. So I have all the different colors and patterns kind of spread out so they're not like one side of the bow is green, one side of the bow is maroon. Space it out. I put them in the order I want, then I stack them one on top of the other. Like this. This makes it easier to grab. When I'm making the bow, I can just grab the next layer. So I have them in the order I want, and I'm going to flip it upside down and just leave it next to me. That way I can grab the bottom layer of the bow first. And like I said, you need 1 1/3 yard of each of the ribbons. Okay, so the first thing you do, if you haven't already put this together, is put your bow maker together. It came with instructions. This little peg here is just if we're making little teeny bows, which we're not today. So we're going to use these 2 bigger pegs, and every layer of the bow as we make it, we're going to slide down between these 2 pegs down to the bottom. Once you have it set up, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your wire and you're going to slide that down between the 2 tall pegs. And we're going to leave that there, and we are going to use that to tie our layers together at the end. Now, for this bow, we want 19" tails. And there is a handy dandy ruler located on the side of all the bow makers. So the center point is here where the pegs are. So you have 12 inches on this side and 8 inches on this side. I want 19" tails. So I'm going to start at the 12" mark and measure to the 7" mark. That's how you can get your 19 inches. If you have one of these amazing mats, this is what I use. I just measure out 19 inches directly on that. We have the link to the mats in our blog. We have a supply blog if you want to order some of the stuff that we use. So the first thing is we measure 19 inches for the tail. And right here is where I need it to slide down between the 2 bigger pegs. So we're just going to slide it down. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but we slide it down between the 2 bigger pegs. And we kind of twist it and bunch it up as it goes down. So it's nice and snug right along the bottom. It's kind of hard to tell, but push it down and kind of gather it. All right, so this is your tail, 19 inches. So for this side that is connected to this longer piece, that's going to be our loops. We want the right side of the ribbon always showing. So we're going to flip this over so that the wrong side is facing up. Now, the more you use these bow makers, the easier it'll get. A lot of times when I'm sliding it down and bunching up, I kind of twist as I push down. It's it's easier for me. I don't know what's easier for you guys. You can either twist it as you push it down or twist it after. But now we have the wrong side facing up here, and we want 5" loops. So where the 5 is on the ruler, I usually put my finger there as a guide, and I bring the ribbon around, and I know this is the center. It needs to go down between the 2 pegs. So I push it down again, make sure it stays at like the 5, and then I gather it as I'm pushing it down, and I twist so the other side of the bow is now wrong side up. You should have the right side showing for this loop over here. Wrong side here. Hopefully you guys can kind of see this one's more red, so that's the wrong side. It's hard to see on the camera. I'm going to measure out to the 5 again, use my finger as a guide. And I'm going to slide this down. And gather it. I'm not going to twist this side because this is going to be a little, I don't know, like a little spiky with the bow, a little shorter tail going up, and I want the right side showing, so I'm not going to twist it upside down. So you can kind of see, you kind of eyeball it, just make sure they're about the same size on both sides. And that is your first layer of the bow. So you should have a short little tail here, 2 loops here, and a long 19-inch tail here. All right, next you're gonna grab the next layer off of your stack, another back ribbon. Now we are going to measure out a 19-inch tail. The only thing we're gonna do now is I want the tail coming out this side because we're gonna rotate back and forth between the sides, and this side had it last. So my 19-inch tail is going to be on this side now, and I'm going to slide this down. And we're going to basically do everything the same, it's just going to be flip-flopped. So the tails are coming out opposite sides of the peg. Now, flip this upside down, find your 5-inch mark, and I slide this ribbon in and twist it. Now this, for my bow, I'm using green and maroon and stuff. This green ribbon I used should be the same size as the maroon ribbon. So flip this upside down, find the 5-inch mark. That's where I need my loop to be. I put this in and I gather it. Now this little spiky part is going to be going up this direction. They don't have to be the exact same length here because this will end up getting trimmed. This is all one layer together like this, and then we're going to take the next 2 and stack that, and the next 2 and the next 2. So it should, at this point, it should look like this. Alright, so your next layer, take another 2.5-inch ribbon, and now I want this tail to be on the same side that we started with. So measure out 19 inches, put it in, and my tail is going out this side now. Now this ribbon is awesome because it is double-sided. When you use a double-sided ribbon, you don't have to worry about twisting it back and forth. So this one will be a lot easier for me to make because I don't have to worry about twisting. You want this loop to be slightly smaller than the 5-inch loop. You don't want to go all the way to 4, but you just want it barely peeking out. Just so every layer of your bow actually shows when you're done and we're not wasting beautiful ribbon hiding it in the back. All right, bring this short little tail up that way. And we are just going to keep doing this. Biggest thing is just to remember to keep flip-flopping what side you start on. That way it ends up staggered. Okay. 19-inch tail. Slide it down. And this one's not double-sided, so I'm going to flip it. It doesn't have to be exact. I kind of just eyeball how big I made that last ribbon. Gather it, flip it, now this little spiky should be going up that way. All right, now you should have 4 ribbons in, and you should have 4 ribbons left. So grab your next ribbon, and we're just going to keep going just like we have been. So I did this tail last, so I'm going to go back to this side. You could measure out 19 inches every time, or once you do this enough, you'll be able to just be like, okay, that's how long I need my tail, and you stick it in. Again, this loop just needs to be barely smaller. You don't want it too small, or else when you get to the last top layer of the bow, you have like teeny tiny little loops. You don't want to do that, but And then if you didn't hammer your pegs in really, really, really good, sometimes they loosen up and kind of separate. Sometimes they fall out. So just be careful of that, not to like yank this too much. That, or you could place a little bit of glue in it before you hammer it in. Might help it stay. All right, next layer. And we're just going to keep going. This bow maker makes it so easy. You don't have to sit there and hold every layer of your bow. Pinch it, flip it. We're almost done. Now you want to make sure that you are always using good wired ribbon. You don't want to use non-wired ribbon because it'll just kind of flip and flop. You won't be able to shape your loops and everything. Last layer going on. Do the same thing. Make sure these two loops are the same size. Okay, once you have finished adding all of the different ribbons, we're going to go back to where our wire is. And I want this wire to be coming through the center of these spikes up here and through the center of the tails. So we're going to bring the wire around, and here's what you need to do. I tie a single knot, and as I'm tightening it, I'm making sure that the knot is also sliding down between those pegs. That way I don't tie my bow to the frame. So if you can see, as you tighten the knot, it needs to go down between the pegs also. So I get that nice and snug. Don't yank too hard or you might snap your wire. Not fun when you do that. You're gonna carefully pick up all your ribbons and slide them up the peg to take them off. You can set your bow holder aside. And as you see, it's a very like fat looking bow. So I smash it down as I'm tightening it. So I'll kind of push it down against the table. You want the center of your bow as small and as tight as possible so that your loops get nice and fluffy. So I do a little knot just to kind of keep it from sliding. And then I take the wires to the back of the bow and I double knot it on the back. I leave the wire on so that I can tie this bow onto a wreath or my top of my Christmas tree, swags, just about anything. So I leave the wire attached, and it's up to you if you want to use a center ribbon or not. This center ribbon basically is just going to cover where your wire is, and you can either tie it on the back, or I usually hot glue the flaps down on the back. Okay, so your bow is all smashed and crazy looking. The biggest thing to do now would be to fluff. So don't worry, this is why you use good wired ribbon. Bring all your spikes kind of up here and just go layer by layer, rounding out your loops. And you want them to kind of come upward. See the difference? So you're just going to take your time and fluff up every loop. And I usually stagger like the color of the ribbon. So like my last two layers of my bow were maroon and a natural. So I have my maroon here and natural here, and then on this side of the bow I have the maroon here and the natural here. That way it's kind of like goes in order. You're alternating the color around the bow. That way you don't have a blob of maroon. Alright, so just keep going around, fluffing up all your layers. You can kind of spread them out a little. It's a good thing about wired ribbon. You can kind of tug on it and make it do what you want. So I'm just going to fluff all the loops. Around. We have tons of ribbon available on our website if you ever need good wired ribbon. And we have the bow makers available for sale. Okay, so I fluffed up all the loops. Now we're going to cut tails. I usually like the dovetail cut. So for that, well, first thing I do is I line up all my tails here and I cut them equal. Sometimes one will be slightly shorter than the other. You don't have to do this if it's not that noticeable. If they're just slightly off, that's not going to matter. Alright, so for the dovetail, you want to take your ribbon, you just fold it in half, you line up the two ends. And then you cut at an angle. Just like that. That way when you open it up, you have the V. Lots of people accidentally cut at the wrong angle like this, and they end up with like a point. So if you do that, just fold it again and just cut at the right angle. So you're going to do this to all of the tails and all the little spiky tails on top. When you get to the spiky tail on top, the biggest thing would be to not accidentally clip through a loop. I used to do that all the time. Not fun. Alright, so cut all the tails. Now we cut all the little spikies on top. These, when I cut these, I usually make them about the same size as my bow. I don't make them long like this. So just kind of as, like whatever part of the layer they are, that's kind of around the length that I make the little spiky. You could keep these longer if you were doing a wreath, like way longer, and like attach them in if you wanted to like have tails going upward. We do that sometimes. Yeah, just go through and cut all the little tails. And then we are going to fray check all of the cut ends of the ribbon so that they don't fray over time. We have Fray Check available on our website also. And it basically just keeps all of the edges of the ribbon pretty. Like it seals all the ends. So here is the Fray Check. Kind of hard again to see in the camera. I usually keep a pin in mine, that way the hole doesn't like block up. And you just kind of lightly glide it on the cut edges of the ribbon, and it'll dry after like a minute. Dries clear. You can use it on almost any ribbon or fabric. It does not work on deco mesh, so don't try that. Okay, you just kind of glide it along all of your edges. And once it dries, it'll seal everything, so these bows will last quite some time. And then I won't bore you with me doing the top, but fray check these also. And you're done. So here is your bow. You can use it on swags, wreaths, Christmas tree topper. We've done wedding gifts, baby shower gifts. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to visit our website and check out all of our other tutorials. Thanks.